Good afternoon, good evening, I guess, at least where I am. It's evening. We're going to get started here. We're trying out something new. If you've got Amazon Music, I can't obviously play it in the stream, but I'm going to try this and see if it works. So right now, I'm listening to, what is it called? Prime Music, I guess. And if you are a Prime Music subscriber, there should be a widget, I think, that you can see if I've got this set up right, which there's really no guarantee that it's actually set up correctly. But I think if the widget shows up on the one side and you can, if you're signed into your music account, you can see what we're listening to, which I thought was kind of neat. So yeah, we're going to give that a whirl and just see. I guess the one thing that I'm a little concerned about, Kevin, are you there? Yeah, you're there, Kevin. Could you do me a favor and just tell me if you can hear the music? You shouldn't be able to hear music because I don't want to get myself in trouble. So you shouldn't be able to hear it live and stream, if I'm understanding the extension correctly. All right, so what we're gonna do, no music, just voice. Okay, great. So I'm not in violation of anything, but I can hear some tunes. I'm listening to, what did I just randomly pick? Cottage Nights. Maybe we'll make our, okay, so can you see the extension pop up when you go over the stream? Is that how it works? All right, so if you remember from last week, we finished up our, I gotta turn it down a little bit. Man, it's too loud, hold on. Okay, that looks like as low as I can make this. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just, okay, that's better. Yeah, it's on the side, okay, great. So I'm hoping what I did there didn't mess up the audio otherwise. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start some WordPress deploys. We're gonna set up, some of this will look familiar from what we've done before. Why don't I make a little cheat sheet here of our to-do items. So let's just actually go like this. Okay. And desktop only, just checked mobile. Oh, perfect. Thanks, man. All right, so we've got this is our to-do list. So we've got let's get rid of that. Maybe. There we go. What I'm thinking is we need a KMS encryption key, because what we're going to do is we've got a bunch of services. We're going to have EC2, RDS, right? We're going to have EFS because I want a shared file system. We've done that before. I'm trying to think if we need this for anything else. It's probably good for now. We'll miss something, but we'll figure it out. We're going to set up IAM. We're going to set up an instance profile. All right. I don't know if we're going to really need this, but we might have maybe whatever's running on the EC2 instance. Maybe you have to access, maybe we want it to access other things. So we'll have a look at that and maybe set that up. Obviously we need an auto scaling group. We'll just do like we'll do 2 min, max, and desired. We have EFS file system. Okay. Actually, probably we should just maybe put this in order of what we're going to do. EFS, RDS. That'll be our backend database for WordPress. And then at that point, maybe we can, maybe we can do EC2 auto scaling. Then we'll do the 222. Actually, no. We need an ALB before that. The kitchen sink. I know. We need a bunch of stuff, right? So we've got encryption. We're going to set up a role to allow, let's say, something running on the EC2 instances to maybe access a service. I don't know if we'll need it or not, but let's put it in there. Shared file system, database, load balancer, EC2. Actually, before we do EC2, we're going to need a custom AMI. So what we'll do here is we'll start an EC2 instance, we'll configure it, and then we'll create a custom AMI, right? And then that basically will do, what we're gonna have is Apache on, let's write this down too. We'll install the CloudWatch log agent. All right, this is the unified one. We'll mount the EFS volume, and we'll just mount it on, I don't know, something like, right? So yeah, what else do we need? CloudWatch log agent, Apache, mount that. We could install, right, command line tools for WordPress. I think those still exist. It's been a while since I've looked at WordPress, but that's pretty good. And then when we do that, for auto scaling, we'll create a launch template, not a lunch template, which will reference the custom AMI, right? Hey, you know what we could do too? Why don't we do this? What's it called now? So there's a Amazon Inspector service which allows us to run vulnerability assessments and stuff like that. We've never done it before, so maybe this is a good time to try it out, right? We'll bake all this stuff into a custom AMI. All right, well, obviously we're not going to do all this tonight, but I think that's kind of what we'll shoot for. And obviously we've got here at the end something else we haven't done on stream before. We'll create a scaling policy, and we'll use I think it's called predictive scaling. There's a bunch of different scaling options now. We'll set up badly spelt predictive scaling. I have no idea. Brain cramp. So there's a bunch of different scaling options we have. We'll go predictive this time just to see it set up and working. I don't know. We could maybe, I think we tried to do this before. Right? Like maybe we'll do min, max of 10 machines and desired of 2. And then we'll do some load testing or something at the end. Because I know we tried to do that before using an old load testing solution, and I don't know if we ever got it to work, to be honest. So predictive, basically it's going to use machine learning, and let me see if I can remember this. It's going to look at the last 24 hours of your usage and then make a prediction for the next 48 hours going forward. We still have to set up a metric, and maybe for this we'll do something really simple, like maybe just like number of connections coming from the load balancer, or maybe it might even be easier just to do CPU utilization, and we could set that as a really low threshold and then just let the scaling happen. Maybe that's what we'll do at the end. Okay, and maybe if we're still interested at this point, We could do a CloudWatch dashboard and alarms, maybe? Right, because this is EC2, so maybe we want to know about memory utilization on the hosts or something like that. We don't have to worry about disk space because we're using AFS. So maybe we could come up with a couple things. Again, because we haven't used those before, right? We've never set up the dashboard or created any alarms. So that might be kind of an interesting walkthrough as well, just to see how it all works. Okay, so there we go. Let's start with this and see how far we get. Okay. So we're gonna set. Oops. We're gonna set. We'll just go in order here, and we'll create a KMS file, or sorry, a KMS key. I've got metadata in here because I borrowed this template from a deployment template. We don't need that. Whoops. Okay, so. Okay. And I know we've written these before, but repetition is the best way to learn this stuff. So we're going to go back to the old document that probably a few of you know quite well by now. And we're just going to build it out like we always do. Okay. We'll leave parameters blank. We'll do that same process. Resource. We'll call this key 0. Oh, I just thought of something else. You know what would be interesting is so how do we do deploys once we get this set up, right? Oops. That'd be interesting too. I was going to say we could use the what's it called, code deploy agent, but we have a shared file system, so we want to push stuff down to that file system, the EFS file system, not to the individual host. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Couple options here. Maybe what I'll do is I'll go right? By then we might have had enough of WordPress, so if we're still interested, maybe we can do some additional things here at the bottom. All right, so let's have a look at this. Obviously we got our description. Let's put in our key. We want to enable key rotation. So enabled is true. Here's the one thing I'm not used to yet is the shift tab thing or alt tab thing on the new keyboard. Okay. And then I wonder if it might be easier if I do this. Right? We don't need all of the real estate like that. It might be a little easier. Let me know if the screen gets a little too small when we've got the documentation and the editor. Okay. Okay. Now we do need a key policy. We'll come back to that. Key spec, we're just going to use the default here, which is symmetric default. So let's do this. Key policy. And we're going to throw in the ever popular to-do tag. And then we'll say key usage. Oops. I think that's just a string, isn't it? Yeah. Is it a multi-region? No, we're gonna do a multi-AZ single region deployment, so we'll leave that. Pending window in days. Window in days. And this is where we'll ref back here and we'll get our first value set. Okay, and we'll set a short default value. We'll just say 7. I think that's the shortest you can do. And if you're not familiar with this, what this basically does is if we delete a key, it will keep that key around for us for whatever the value is in pending window in days. There we go. Okay, and you can see we can enter a value between 7 and 30. I'm just making it 7 because, to be honest, I don't really care if it goes away, right? And then we've got tags. Now, I grabbed this VPC template, which will have tags. So we'll grab these. Actually, just do this. And again, if you've watched the stream, then you know how we're going to do this. Standard set of keys, or tags, sorry. Right? All right, so resources, that's good. I know we got to do our key policy. We'll come back, and then we're going to say alias 0. And remember, all this is basically an easier way to remember this key. Otherwise, we've got that giant string that we're going to have to remember. So what am I looking for? KMS. There we go. So we're going to say type AWS, KMS, alias. This does depend on the fact that we have a key already there. All right, so we want to make sure the key is created before the alias. And really all we have here is alias name, which I think we'll use. We'll just go like this.
From
Alexa, stop.
Demand Gen Live.
Alexa, stop. She's ignoring me. Maybe it heard me that. Alexa, stop. What am I missing here? This doesn't feel right. I got distracted. I think it's like this. I gotta change this keyboard layout to get the curly braces somewhere I can get at easier, because that's a painful. So we'll just, not region, we'll say stack name. And then all we have to do is ref back to key 0. Okay. There was nothing. Oh, that's awesome. I hope somebody is trying out this widget, because there is like one of my favorite songs from when I was a teenager playing right now, which I used to back in the day be able to play on my guitar. I probably still have the sheet music for it somewhere. All right, so we've got our key, which won't work because we don't have a policy. We've got our alias, which refers back to the key, and we're just going to jam a stack name on it for the memory, the name, the alias name. And what I want to do now is I'm trying to get into the habit of doing this. Sometimes I don't follow my own advice. I want to get some good outputs built. So let's have a look here. There's only one for this, so let's do this. We'll say alias 0, value is ref, what is it, alias 0, and then we'll set these exports up. And we'll do the same thing. Yeah, I have to fix that. I've had this keyboard long enough now that you'd think that I would remember where the keystrokes are, but I guess 30 years, probably more than that, of typing is not working well. So this is just the logical name of the alias. So we'll just call it alias ID. Okay, easy to remember. And then let's have a look at what we've got for the key. If there's anything interesting from the key that we might want to use later. There's examples. Okay, here we go. So this will give us the key ID. We can get the ARN for the key, and then we can get the key ID. All right, so let's do a couple of those actually. So we'll say key 0. This is its ID. Maybe we'll do the same up here, like that. And we can get this just by doing the value, which is just key 0. My brain just wants to keep using the same keys for those curly braces. So we're going to say key ID. And then we'll do the same thing here. Key 0 ARN. And in this case, we've got to use the get attribute to get this. So we'll say key 0 dot ARN. Ah, so frustrating. Key ARN. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to cheat. I find that some services do a really good job at giving you examples of key policies. Others don't. So what I think we're going to do, so we're going to go over here. We're going to go to, how do I search now that I've got this? Well, let's do this. So we're building a customer managed key. You can see here we've cleaned something up. And all I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to put this in. Okay. And if I can't find a policy, we'll come back to this one. So here's what we need. This is just like a resource policy, right? So we're just going to say right. And then we need right, and all right, so let's see what this does. Okay, so we've got, this is wrong, we got bad cut and paste. So pull that back. So we've got our tags, we've got default values for those. We've got our pending deletion time. This is a pretty good playlist, actually. Okay, so we'll validate that template, and then we'll do this. I can see why they call this cottage playlist or whatever it was. Now we don't need any parameter overrides, so you can see I'm passing a lot in on that. And then we've got some odd spacing, so let's fix this, and that should get rid of that fun color. There we go. All right, so validating the templates and then deploying the templates. This is already deployed. This may throw an error at us. I can't remember what state this is in, but let's try it. Let's see if it's a spelling mistake. Unresolved dependencies. Oh, sorry, I called it key 0, didn't I? Yeah, that's it there. Okay, I did it right down there. I think that's all it is. Oh yeah, I did it right here, didn't do it here. I'm not liking the way, there we go. My brain's having a hard time figuring out where I'm supposed to be looking there in that small screen. All right, so that's a good sign. There we go. All right, so the regular old thing, what changes have to be made, right? Since it's brand new, we've got 2 additions. Sorry, I'm gonna keep doing this. And we'll just execute that. As long as it doesn't error out right away, we'll put... No subschema matched to the total 2 subschemas. Probably... I've probably missed something in here. Let's go this. There'll be an example here. I've probably just forgotten something. Oh, what am I doing? Sorry, not alias. I want the key. Key policy. Oh, yeah, see, got a dash. Don't need the dash. We do need the dash there, so maybe that's all it was. Actually, we did the same thing, didn't we? So this has to be deleted, otherwise it's going to throw an error. I'm just seeing here, I have spent no time in my stream setup, so I see 4 gathers. If you're still here, 4 gathers, thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. I might have jumped the gun there. Sorry, I was thinking that was deleted already. So this might throw an error at us because it's in delete state. Okay, so this is it running right now. I get it. I don't. Okay, there's the cancel button. Makes sense. Let's see if it worked. Okay, it's deleted, but it failed. Okay, that's probably, if we look at this, jump the gun a little bit, right? So you can see that the stack that we're trying to replace is still in delete in progress, so that's not going to work. What we're going to do is we'll just run this again, and it should be okay this time. There we go. That's a plus. Not a plus, a check. Refresh. Is the screen okay like this? I don't know if I like it or not. Like that, or maybe when we're doing deploy work, we just do this. It's a little easier. I wonder how, while we're waiting for this to air out, I wonder how these extensions, like I read somewhere else there's a Spotify extension now too. So same sort of thing works, right? You don't hear the music in the stream because of copyright issues. But if you are a Spotify subscriber, you can then see what I'm listening to and you can listen along, right? I wonder how like an extension like that or an extension like the Amazon Music will affect some of the other streaming services, like the music services that exist already that people are using. I like them, but I gotta say it's nice to have stuff that you know. I'm kind of keeping from singing along because nobody wants that. Okay, so that didn't fail right away. So that's probably a good sign. Send a screenshot in your Discord. Oh, thanks, man. I should really. Now this is again the things that I think about while we're streaming rather than before the stream. Is I should think about getting that. It was just a Twitch bot that was going that would broadcast the Discord channel every once in a while, just in case anybody's here and wants to join. I'll figure it out for next week. Okay, so that's still plugging away. If we go back and look at our to-do list, kind of partially done. I know we need to set these up, but we'll come to those. Oh, I thought of something else, just for completeness. Right. So if you're not familiar with a VPC endpoint, there are what I call VPC aware services, things that you deploy into a VPC, like an EC2 instance, like an RDS database. And then there are services that are non-VPC aware. And if you've seen the stream before, we often use the systems manager service instead of SSHing into things. We set up SSM on the machines, so we can just open a session right in the console. It's easy. You can also do those session manager sessions from the command line if you want. But that's a good example of, I got a rollback again. That's a good example of a system that's outside of the VPC. So an endpoint would allow us to communicate privately, in my example, from the EC2 instance to the SSM service without going out over the Amazon network. So maybe we'll set those up too, right? Yeah, I think that might be a good little exercise. Let's figure out what happened here. Alias name, failed validation constraint for keyword pattern. I wonder if it didn't like this, because that's what I tried to call the alias. Let's go back and have a look at what the constraints are. So alias name. Oh, look, RTFM moment. I should have known that for how many times we've built on here. So really what I need is like that. The aliases have to be prefixed with alias. Makes perfect sense, right? So let's go back here. That's a good sign. So that means at least the key got created fine. It was the alias, the reference to it after the fact. Okay, so we'll let that delete. And while that's working its magic, let's go over here and say, so all we'll do in IAM for now is we'll set up an instance profile, which would, once we stand up the EC2 instance, we'll be able to use like SSM as an example to get into these machines and configure them and stuff like that, because we're going to make that custom AMI, right? So let's do the same thing. We'll just go like this. We don't need pending. Okay. So we're going to create here a role first. And a role is a pretty basic setup. So we need our assume role policy document. If you're not familiar with that, a role has two main pieces. It has a trust policy, who or what can assume the role. Once we've assumed that role, we need the permissions document, like what can whoever or whatever assumes that role, what can they do? So we're going to create here first our permissions doc. Or sorry, not our permissions doc, our trust doc. Okay. And in this case, all we want is we want a specific service to be able to access this. And in this case, it's ec2.amazon.aws.com. I'm going to actually just do this because I don't think we need that on a new line. So this is going to allow the EC2 service to assume this role. And then the action, sorry, is just STS assume role. So STS, lots of acronyms. That's the security token service, STS. And that's how basically the service that's going to be responsible for providing the keys that will get sent back when something assumes this role. So that's that part. Let's do description. Okay. Now we do want to add an AWS managed policy, at least one to this, and we'll have to go look it up. They are changing some of these. So if we go over to, actually I want to go to policies, not roles. And we want to go in here. Is there a filter? And there isn't. We're going to search for SSM. Right? And when you see this little icon, that's an AWS managed policy versus a customer managed policy. This used to be the role that you would use for SSM, but there's a new one. This is the one we want. So what we need is the ARN from that. So we're going to grab that and we're going to dump it here. Okay. So that's going to basically give us, you can see up here, the policy for EC2 role to enable systems manager core functionality, and you can see what we get down here, which is enough for what we're doing at least at the beginning here. So that's that. We'll leave the default session duration. Paths we can use to help organize. We won't worry about it in this case. We won't worry about permissions boundaries. We're not going to put any inline policies here, so we'll leave that. We'll let CloudFormation generate the role name itself, so we won't worry about that. And then tags. So we'll grab the tags from here again. And that's got to line up right there. Okay. I almost wonder, let's do something a little different here. Let's add a project key. And we'll put that up here. And we'll just call this okay. And then we'll go up here and we'll say I won't set a default for that. We'll pass it in. We'll pass it in programmatically. Oops, what did I do? Owner email. We want to put that here. Okay. That should be fine there. Now, if you're creating this in the console, it will, when you go through the process, like if we go back here, and when you start the process of creating a role, the first step is to select the service. So if you select DC2 and continue on, what's happening is during this process, it will actually create the instance profile for you. When you're creating the roles programmatically, whether it's CloudFormation or something else, you need to create that instance profile. So that's the next thing we're going to do. Actually, sorry, let's create an output section. What can we get from the role for outputs? There's return values. So this will return the logical the logical ID, the ARN, the role ID. So maybe we'll do role 0 ID. Oops, forgot that. So this is role ID. And then we want the ARN for it. Okay. So there's those two pieces, and then we need the instance profile. So we'll just say, no, we better not call it profiled in case we want to create, well, we would call those policies. I was getting mixed up with permission statements. So let's just call it profile 0. My typing's getting worse as I go along. So let's do, what is it? IAM Same thing, we'll set up a depends on statement here. We need that role first. Instance profile name, I don't think we need. Yeah, CloudFormation will generate one for us. The path, again, is a way to logically organize it. We won't worry about that. All we need here is the roles. So we'll say roles. And it wants a list of a string, the name of the role. All right, so again, I think it's just, if we scroll to the bottom here, yeah, returns the resource name. So all we need here is just ref role 0. Right, and we will add, what do we have for outputs here? Logical name again. So we can get an ARN for this. So maybe we'll get the, I don't care about the logical name, I don't think, for this. So let's just do, well, you know what? Let's just do this. ID. We're typing anyways, right? Ref. Should go with IDs up here, so. Do you ever notice when you don't really care for a song, it's the one that goes on forever? Like, how many more guitar riffs do I need here before the song ends? Okay. Every single time. Never fails, does it? Songs you like, they seem to be over like that. All right, so instance profile set up, the role. Now I think, I can't remember if I redeployed that or not, the KMS key. Did not. Okay, so let's oh, I didn't. It's not going to help us much. Didn't add anything to the pipeline. Oh, you know the other thing? Since we put the project in, I need to pass that in because we didn't set a default value. We just called it project, and we'll say equals $project, and we've set that up here, so we're good there. And we'll need that in these, we'll need that in the other templates as well. So we'll just go here. And I don't know if it's actually in the VPC template, but we'll put it in there and then we can add it later, right? Okay, so that's a little better. And then we've got IAM deploy. So this failed. Why did it fail? Oh, project. Let's try this again. That's the kind of thing that always makes me laugh. You know, for all the templates I write, you would think at some point that would just be burned into your brain. Wow. Member must have length of... Oh. No, okay, no, it's fine. Oh, look at... So this error message took me a while to figure out. So let's have a look at it. Type name list failed to satisfy constraint. Member must satisfy constraint, blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. This little piece right here is what you're after. So essentially, you know, characters, two colons, characters, two colons, characters, etc. Oh my god, there we go. Okay. That was, I remember the first couple times I saw that, that took forever to figure out. It's not a really... I guess if you actually read the whole thing and you look at the end here, it might give you an indication of what you're messing up, because you could kind of work this back to something, but I find this really confusing. I guess unless you look right at the value here, right? Yeah, okay. So this is another thing. When you create IAM resources, when you deploy them, you need to go like this and say -- capabilities. There we go. Okay. Now there's a couple options here. So I'm putting capability IAM, and the reason we can do that is because we're not hard coding any names in the IAM resources we're creating. If you have a name, like in here, if you hard coded a role name, so you said role name equals WordPress role, then you need capability back here. You need capability _ named _ IAM, I think it is. So there's a couple options, options, I guess. All right, IAM's good. And let's try to deploy this one again. Oh, man, we're not having a lot of luck tonight. Managed policy ARNs. That's probably just a spelling mistake. Oh, see what I did? So this is lined up. It's thinking it's part of the assume role policy document. So we got to pull that back a space like that. Okay. amazing when you do this. I keep going up here thinking I'll see change sets, and my brain is, I guess it's just like typing. My brain's been so programmed to go and find change sets up here. I keep going up, and then I'm like, gotta go back. Execute. One of those nights. Spelling mistakes everywhere. That's what it was, right? Roll 0, unknown field. Roll 0. Oh, I did this. I did the same thing. I'm like, no, that's spelled right. Tab. I'm gonna blame it on lack of caffeine. Didn't have any caffeine today. I think I had too much caffeine yesterday, and I woke up at about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I could not go back to sleep. So today's been one of those days, and I'm like, okay, no caffeine today, which has been even worse because I didn't sleep very well. Pain today. Pain. All right, let's go over here. I knew I took a risk on that one. See how they have it here? Oh, sorry. I typed AWS. It's supposed to be service. So you'd use AWS if you were referring to an entity within that account, like a user, right? So in there you could put the ARN that pointed to a user. So you could say, okay, Kevin can assume this role. And then at the point you say AWS and you put in the ARN for Kevin's IAM user, let's say. In this case, it's a service, not a user. So yeah, I'm not paying enough attention tonight as I'm typing away here. Okay, progress. This is a Kevin where I need the little thing on the Stream Deck where like little CloudFormation logos swim by, because we actually got, that's the first thing we've deployed tonight successfully. Wow. It's a bit of a slog. Hey, what happened here? Oh. Okay, that's fine. But what happened to my IAM deploy? It was there, wasn't it? There's the VPC. Let's filter this. Did I not? Oh my god, I didn't commit the change. Maybe I should start these streams a little earlier. I'm a little tired, I think. I've seen that little the little video, I think, of him kind of losing his mind a little bit, right? Man. Is he lurking in chat? I've changed my view here so I can't see who's in chat. I don't know what I've done. Okay, not an immediate failure. I'm gonna do this. Maybe premature. Okay, role's done. You know, when this, it's like they say, it's the little things, right, that matter. I'm happy when a role in an instance profile gets deployed successfully. That's a win. Okay, while we're waiting for that to fail, let's close some of these things down. And I'm going to say, not what I wanted. In theory, that's done, right? This is what I'll call partially done. Let's call it in progress. And the reason that's in progress is because if we actually tried to use that key right now, it wouldn't work because we haven't actually given any services access to use that key for encryption and decryption. So we gotta finish that, but it's got a base key policy on it. Okay. It's so funny. Look, I put VPC endpoints in here, but nowhere did I say we'll create a VPC, which would be important for that to work. So the VPC template is sitting here. Let's see what happens with this. Yeah, we got a bunch of change sets. And this is going to build out pretty much the standard VPC we've used throughout all the demos across 2 availability zones, private and, a public subnet in each AZ, a private subnet in each AZ. And you'll notice here, we've also got protected now. Where is it? Protected subnets. So the idea here is maybe if you had, maybe a database and you wanted to make sure that that database couldn't be communicated with unless you're inside the VPC. I'll show you when this is deployed. Essentially, that protected subnet is allowed to talk only to things within the VPC and nothing else. Whereas anything in the public subnet, assuming it has a public IP address assigned to it, could talk to the outside world. Anything in the private subnet could talk to the outside world going through the NAT gateway. But the protected subnets, they're meant to be completely isolated. So let's deploy this and see what happens. The way the day's going, you never quite know. All right, well, as that's going, let's think about, if we go back to our cheat sheet here, we want VPC endpoints. Maybe we'll also put S3 in here. I don't know if we'll actually use S3 in this project, but let's put it in there. And the reason I want to put it in there is because there's 2 types of endpoints. There's a gateway endpoint and an interface endpoint. So S3 and Dynamo use gateway endpoints, and the other services that support endpoints use interface endpoints. So this will be a nice way to see both. The difference is S3 and Dynamo with a gateway endpoint, essentially it's a route table. So we say, hey, if you're trying to get to this service, the route is that way. Versus an interface endpoint, it's going to create an elastic network interface inside the VPC, which the service would then route through to the outside world. The other thing is, with an interface endpoint, you would have my Kindle just mysteriously turned on for no apparent reason. With an interface endpoint, because it has an elastic network interface in ENI, it's going to have a security group around it. With a gateway endpoint, you don't have a security group because it's a route table. There's some other things you can do, but there's no concept of a security group for that. Okay, so let's have a look at this first. And I think what we'll do to keep this a little organized, we'll create a subdirectory here, and then we'll say S3 YAML, and we'll put the endpoints in labeled by service, right? We'll say S3, whatever the other ones were. So let's go have a look at those. Now this is probably under EC2, I think. I can't really remember where they are. VPC endpoint. There's the one. I don't know if it's just the one definition or not. So let's have a look. See this VPC endpoint type. Let's check that. Default is gateway, or it could be, oh, sorry, I forgot. There's a gateway load balancer now too, which has its own VPC endpoint. So this is what we're after. Okay. So let's go back here and we'll just grab our starting point. Let's just go through this. A policy to attach to the endpoint that controls access to the service. If this parameter is not specified, we attach a default policy. So let's use the default policy for now, and let's see what it looks like. If we want to go back and lock it down a little bit more, we will. I don't really recall what that is going to look like, so let's start with that. Private DNS enabled, not required for a gateway endpoint, which we're creating now, so we'll leave that. This is what we need for route table IDs. And we're going to put this on 2 route tables. I'll tell you why in a second. We don't need a security group. We do need this for the service name. I want to say it's just this, but we'll look it up. AmazonAWS.com. Don't need that for our gateway. And what we're going to do is we're going to say okay, and we'll say parameters. So what this is doing is, if we were to deploy this in the console, we'd get a drop-down list, and it would default to a gateway endpoint type, and then give us the ability to select one of the other ones. We're not going to do that. We're going to deploy it through the CLI, but it's nice to put that in there just in case. And then we need our VPC ID. And we'll do the same thing here. We're just going to okay. And I think what we're going to do is we're going to say VPC stack, and we'll just say type string. Since we're doing exports from the other templates, I think what we will do is we'll basically nested or chaining. I always forget. I think this is called chaining templates together. Essentially, though, what we're going to do is the exports from our VPC template will become imports into this template. So we're going to import the exports for the route table IDs and the VPC ID. Okay. That way, all we have to do is pass in the stack name here, and the rest of it will come automatically, rather than having to pass in, all the route table IDs, the VPC ID. That's assuming that our CloudFormation template worked here. It did. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the exports here, or the outputs, and you see how we've got these export names. We're going to construct those. Okay. The other thing I mentioned about route tables is if we go and look at the VPC, and we just find our VPC here. We go to route tables. What we've done is we've created a route table for every subnet. So we want to make sure that in this case, we want only resources deployed in the private subnet or one of the two private subnets to be able to talk to, in our example here, S3. So what we need is we need the subnet IDs, right, for these two, and we're going to pass those in as imports. Okay. Now here's the tricky part. The import command is, it eludes my brain. I can never remember it. I'm hoping last week we used it here. Ah, that's what I'm after. Okay. Actually, this will work perfectly. So we can just grab this. And we can do the same thing, just go like that. And in this case, we want private subnet 0. And private subnet 1. The other thing we have to look at is, what did we, I need the VPC ID, right? Resize this. So if we go to outputs, we're after this. So it's just WordPress development VPC, which is just the stack. So in this case, we could just take this. And if I'm reading that right, we just do that. Okay. Now there's no tagging available for this, at least in CloudFormation. Let's do our outputs in case we need this somewhere else. Returns the ID of the VPC endpoint, so let's do that. What am I missing? Oh yeah. There we go. And we'll say endpoint. Ooh, we have to be careful here because the export names have to be unique in the region where they're deployed. So let's do this. We'll do S3. I don't want to make this too long. Actually, no. Okay, we can do this. Because we can pass the stack name in. So we can call this like, I don't know, WordPress S3 something. And it'll give us the name right at the end. So that'll be fine. And then we've got DNS entries, network interfaces. None of this really, I don't really care about any of that. So let's do this. Whoops. Okay. Now this obviously is going to reply. What's the word I'm looking for? Rely? Depend on the fact that this VPC is already there. So actually we're not going to copy that one. Copy this instead. Okay. WordPress. We'll do this, S3 endpoint, which means if you think about this, it's going to come back as wrong file. It's going to export as WordPress development S3 endpoint -endpoint-id. So what we can do is just go like, we really do need the name, don't we? Because we might end up with an S3 bucket. So maybe in this case we'll just do this. Okay. Now we put these in a subdirectory, so we'll do that. We don't need any parameter overrides because there's no tags available. All right, let's see what we got here. Oh, hang on. We need this. Is that what we called it? No, we just called it endpoint deploy. Okay. Route table IDs. Route table. I'm getting really tired. I think we're gonna call it here soon. Look, I didn't even define a type or anything. Oof. And we wonder why that doesn't work. Wow. I was gonna say fix typo, but I don't even think that's fair. Every parameter must contain a type. Yeah, I am tired. Whew. We need a t-shirt that says it's most likely a typo. That'd be a good t-shirt, right? Maybe in small text underneath, get some sleep. All right, so there's our VPC deploy, and we should have our endpoint deploy here at the end. Let's see if we can do one of the interface endpoints. Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay. So we need to pass in the name of the stack, right? Because that's how it's going to get the info for what we want to pass in for the exports. So we obviously have to pass that in, and this is where we do need parameter overrides. I say parameter because that's the way I want to spell it. VPC stack equals VPC stack. Okay, there we go. There's our endpoint. All we're going to do is deploy a single input, or sorry, a single endpoint. And you can see in here what we should have. Oh, look. Okay, no, sorry, that's right. I'm so used to doing the refs lately. All we're passing in is the VPC stack name, which would then be used by the import value to grab what it needs for the VPC ID and the subnets. Okay, execute that. Invalid ID. Lowercase characters in a single dash. Look, it's got like RTB there too. To me, that means we've done something a little weird here. See this? That's what I was expecting. WordPress development VPC subnet 0. Oh, no, private subnet 0. No, that's right. Private subnet 1. I'm expecting it to pass in those two values, but to me it looks like it's in that error message. Oh, I see what sorry. There's a difference between subnets and route tables. We're passing in the wrong info. So if we go back over here, we actually need this. It's expecting a route table ID, not a subnet ID. Wow. Okay. Go back over here. Let's see if we can get this deployed, and then we'll have a look at the interface endpoint part and see what's involved in that. It's going to look very similar to this, although we're going to, in that case, we will pass in subnets, I think. So we'll have a look at that and just see what's involved. It'd be nice to get kind of the foundation of this done tonight. It's been a bit of a battle, but oh, sorry, my fault again. Didn't look up what the service name was. To get a list of the available services, or get the name from the service provider. Go down here, EC2. What's it telling us? Describe VPC endpoint service. We're going to go to version 2. So it looks like everything's optional. So I think if we just do this, Ah, okay, look at, no, I wasn't even close. I was thinking, in my brain, I'm thinking about, in the role, you know, where we said ec2.amazon. So let's do this. We're going to say sub. The reason I'm using a sub here, maybe, there we go, is because I want to pass this in dynamically, because then that way we can run this in different regions. So if we just go pass in the pseudo parameter, that should fix that problem. That way if we deploy this in a different region, we don't have to go back and nothing's hard coded. All of this work is essentially, I'll show you when we're done, but what we'll have is we'll have an extra entry in the route table, and it'll basically say, hey, if you're trying to get to S3, go this way. It's essentially what we're doing. This is the thing that a lot of people don't realize with infrastructure as code. Doesn't matter if you're using CloudFormation or something else. It takes a long time to write these templates, right? There's a fair amount. Well, you've seen tonight. We have had a bit of an off night tonight. I'd like to think it's not normally this bad, but it can take a lot of effort, right, to get these done. And I think a lot of times what happens is people don't realize that, or they don't give themselves enough time up front. And then it's like, oh, I need to get this done. I'll just do it in the console because I can click. And oh man, it might get you there faster, but it's really not the right way to do it. What did I do now? Expecting only, oh. I can't remember here. You can use AWS region. You can use a pseudo parameter inside a sub like this. Let's I've done it before, so I know it works, but I can't remember it. The function. See what they've got here. See this? AWS region, AWS count. Okay, so I really, really hope now somebody is trying this Amazon Music extension, because my favorite Guitar Hero song is playing right now. Oh, I forgot the dollar sign. Yeah. This makes me want to go and find the old Xbox and pop in that. I'm sure I have the guitar around here somewhere, and just play this song again in Guitar Hero, because it's a great tune. A lot of fun in Guitar Hero. They still make that game? They gotta make that game still. It was so popular. Do you remember there's a movie with Vince Vaughn where he hustles a guy in the movie? They bet something about, oh, what is it? He needs to know how to get to the other part of the resort. I can't remember the name of the movie. It's yeah, I can't think of it. So the guy, they have a bet who would win in Guitar Hero. It's a great scene in that movie. Obviously, Vince Vaughn wins. Whoa, look at that. If you spell things correctly, it works like a charm. All right, let's go over to the VPC, and I'll just show you what we've been working towards. So if we go filter on the VPC, grab a route table, and we're looking for those 2 private route tables, what we should see here, the local route, which is the default, we can't do anything with that. If you're in the private subnet and you need to get out to something on the public internet, it goes through the NAT instance. And now here, if you are trying to get to this, which is a prefix list, right? And you can see that what we've done is essentially what Amazon does is they publish prefix lists, which you can create your own prefix lists for like on-prem or whatever it is. It's a way to avoid having to create a bunch of entries like this. So these are the CIDR ranges for the S3 service in CA Central 1. And that's essentially what we're doing here is we're routing all of that traffic through this entry to the S3 service. Couples retreat, that's it. Yeah, did you remember that or did you look that up? But have you seen that movie? The scene with him playing Guitar Hero? It's great. Okay, so let's have a look at the other type of VPC endpoint. The interface endpoint. Which is actually just in here. We can go back over to the terminal. And we said about using EC2. So here's EC2. The thing that we remember we have to do with a interface VPC endpoint is it does need a security group. Why don't we see if we can get this done? Okay, so when we think about this, right? This is now done as well. And I'm just going to copy this whole thing. Whoops. There we go. Okay. Now we're gonna leave this as is, but we'll have to override the endpoint type in the CI script. Okay. Now the rest of this, we still don't need a policy document. I'll look this up and see if maybe we should create one just to see how it works. But we'll look at that. We don't need private DNS. We don't need route tables because those are for gateways. We do need a security group. So we're just going to say SG0 Okay, we'll finish up this in a minute, but what we're also going to do is say there we go. Okay. So we're going to need to refer to that. So we'll just go security group IDs, ref SG0. Service name is going to change to this. So the rest of it can stay. We just got to do that. That's already there. VPC ID is there. This is where we need to go subnet IDs. And this could change to private subnet 0, private subnet 1. Okay. All right, so now let's just have a look at what we need. I want to say it's just 443 is what we need, but I'll look and be sure. Had to look it up, seen it a few times, couldn't think of it. Yeah, it's a fun movie. I like Vince Vaughn, so he makes me laugh in some of those ones. You'd think they would just put a reference to the security group right in here, wouldn't you? To ensure the command lines run HTTPS, there we go. From resources in your VPC to an AWS service, the security group must allow inbound traffic on 443. Okay, so let's set this up. So this is, what are we doing here? We're doing interface endpoint security group. Okay. Let's just finish this before we come back here. Oops. So we'll go. I like to leave the tags till the end, and we've already got this set up down here. So we'll just paste that up here, and then we will borrow tags from, I think we had them in IAM, right? I'm gonna need these now. Whoops. Huh. What am I doing wrong here? Keyboard errors. There we go. And then we can also just go here. Grab these. All right. So what we need is ingress rules. Now, the question is, to ensure that the command line tools such as AWS CLI can make requests over, the security group must allow inbound HTTPS 443 traffic. From where? I'll look this up, but what we'll do is I'm going to put a to-do item here. What we need here is it might be, we might be able to inbound. So outbound traffic is enabled. Inbound traffic, I think in this case we can do the VPC CIDR, because if you think about it, if you're on the EC2 instance and you're trying to get to a service, you're going to initiate that call from the EC2 instance, right? You run a command line. That inbound hits the ENI, which has the security group. We need to allow inbound 443 from what's in the VPC through to it. We could even get a little tighter with that and put it in specific subnets. No, it's not subnets, sorry. The CIDRs for the subnets. But I think for tonight what we'll do is we will just do this. Because we have this set up already, we can find, I think when we created the VPC, if we look at the VPC output, we should have the CIDR range in here for the VPC. Yeah, right here. I think we can tighten this up, but for now we'll just say -CIDR. Okay, so that'll at least limit it to only resources within the VPC, but really we want this for our private resources, so yeah, I don't know exactly what the best way to do that would be, whether we could tighten this up or not. So description would be allow inbound TCP right, and we'll just put here endpoint. Okay. Now we'll say from port 443 to port. It's only one port that we need. Okay. And then we need the IP protocol, which is TCP. So that's really the only rule we need. And then we refer to it. We've got these subnets. That's set. That looks good. And this is exactly the same. So let's see what this does. So we can go back over here. So we have the VPC stack coming in. Oh, and this one we do need project because unlike the S3 one, it has tags in it on the security group, right? So we've got that. Let's just have another quick look. VPC stack we're passing. That's set. VPC stack comes in. Oh, we need to override this too. So what we'll do is we'll go here and we'll just say, what was it? Was it just interface? Interface with a capital I. Did I spell it right? Interface, okay. And then we'll go down here. Okay. Think that's it. We're deploying that as part of the endpoint deploy, so that's good. There we go. I might have to find a different playlist. Suddenly this is all 60s music for some reason. While we're waiting for my thing to fail. Let's just do I Miss the 90s, which I bet you any money I won't miss these songs at all. But let's try it. All right, so that's good. I think if you're gonna miss something, maybe this is just my age, I would probably miss the 80s more than I would miss the 90s. I don't know. I guess 90s, yeah, maybe. I don't know. 80s music is good, right? All right, so we're going to create our security group. We're going to create our endpoint. Inputs should look very similar to the other one. We've changed our interface, our endpoint type. We've got our different variables, and there's the stack. Let's execute this and see what happens. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I bet you there are some boy band beats in here somewhere, I would suspect. All right, so SG is good. Endpoint's going. And what we should see here, I'll show you, is remember, this is really just creating a couple elastic network interfaces, and it's dumping them into each of the subnets that I just mentioned. So what we should see is, if this works, we'll see a couple new ENIs come up. Okay, so let's actually, I'm feeling confident that it's not failing immediately. If we go to, actually the easy way to see this is if you go to EC2, I bet you can see it in the VPC console, but if you go here and you go to network interface, here are the interfaces. We've only got this VPC running. These are the interfaces that are assigned to the NAT gateways. And what are these ones? These must be the ones that we just created. No tags on those. Maybe it's not supported. VPC Endpoint. I thought it would have a service name in here for us. Maybe I'm just missing it. Well, if we go over here, I think those are the right ones. Ah. It's still creating. There's our one endpoint. It's weird that it's taking this long. To me, that means we've got some sort of mismatch somewhere. But if we do this, yeah, there we go. See, that's what I was after. So, okay, we're in the VPC console here, gone down to endpoints and searching within the VPC. So there's the, okay, there's the two subnets. Those are they should be our two private subnets. Won't let me make that any bigger. There's our security group. The policy, this is the default policy that gets added. Didn't realize that you could create notifications. And yeah, it looks like you can tag these, but not from CloudFormation. Oh, there we go. Okay. So now we've got S3 endpoints, which are just route tables. And in this case, we've now got an interface endpoint, and we've created one in each of the private subnets. And that means that we're able to route that traffic through those ENIs to the EC2 endpoint service in this case. Okay. And that gets us almost to the top of the hour. So actually, let me go back over here. And this is done. So not bad. We'll finish this. I'll look up the key policies that we need, and we can get those in place. Because once we get those in, EFS, RDS, ALB, yeah, we could probably get through about half of this next week. Okay. So I think what we'll do is we'll call it here. Let me see who's online right now. Ooh, I know what we're going to do today. We're going to go over and we're going to check out Wild, who's playing Minecraft, or might be actually building some resource packs in Minecraft. So we're going to head over that way and see what he's up to. All right, so enjoy the rest of your evening, folks, and we'll see everybody later. Bye.